even if you make mistakes, especially if you're unconscious of them, if you haven't learned yet, let's say.
Who have become successful in any way use a structured means to organize their time. They have lists of things to do, like they have every day, there's a list of things to do that day. Every week, there's a list of things to do that week. Every month, there's a list of things to do that month. You know, at every level of temporal resolution, there's a sequence of plans, and those plans are implemented on a day-to-day basis. You cannot be, and successful isn't the right way of thinking about it, because I'm not thinking about, I'm not really thinking about rising up the corporate ladder. You know what I mean? And that's sort of what success has come to mean in our culture. That isn't what I mean. You can't have a life that you're going to find acceptable without that, because you need the vision and the plans to give you purpose and direction. That's where all your positive emotion comes from. All your motivation is laying out plans that are worth attaining and then observing yourself moving towards them. That's the source of most positive meaning. And then also, without that structure,
when you're struggling and in your pathway of success, you have to remember all the good times that you've had up to that moment and figure out what good times you could potentially have as long as you don't give up. You see, there's a fine line between failure and giving up. Failure is something that should be expected and embraced with graciousness and excitement, because when you fail, that means you're doing the right thing. That means you're attacking your goals, you're going full in, and you're not caring what other people are thinking about you. But when you give up, that's when you let all the outside insecurities get to you, and you decide that whatever it is you're trying to do isn't as good as what those people around you are telling you, and you know their ideas are better than yours, which is absolutely false. You should have the mindset of knowing that whatever you want to do is the best situation for yourself, and you're going to put yourself in the best situation for you to become successful and do whatever dreams that you want to accomplish and those goals to get knocked out. Whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that you are putting yourself in the best situation for yourself to strive and thrive in this world, because nobody else is going to do that for you. They're going to try to get you to make you strive for them. So if you want to make yourself the most successful individual, you have to make sure that you're constantly making sure that you're doing whatever it is that brings joy to you, and make sure that you're loving every single moment of it.
Well, if you think about it historically, you have to say that we're in good times. I mean, that doesn't mean everything about the current times are good, and of course life is always tenuous and difficult, but it's 1919. If you go back 100 years ago, imagine what the last 5 years would have been like, right? The entire world was encapsulated in a terrible war. The trench warfare was absolutely brutal, and that was a 5-year period, and then that was followed by the Spanish influenza, which killed 120 million people. And so I'd rather be here now than there then by a substantial margin. And I think life is never easy, even under relatively positive conditions, but I would say that it's very difficult to make the case that we're not in good times. And I especially think that's true if you look at the world globally. The American working class, and maybe the Western working class in general, paid a very large price for enriching the rest of the world. You destabilize yourself and things become chaotic. That's not good. And if you don't have a noble aim, then you have nothing but shallow, trivial pleasures, and they don't sustain you. And that's not good, because life is so difficult, it's so much suffering, it's so complex. It ends and everyone dies and it's painful. It's like, without a noble aim, how can you withstand any of that? You can't. You become desperate, and once you become desperate, things go from bad to worse very rapidly when you become desperate. And so there's the idea of the noble aim, and it's not something, it's something that's necessary. It's the bread that people cannot live without, right? That's not physical bread. It's the noble aim. And what is that? Well, it was encapsulated in part in the story of Marduk. It's to pay attention, it's to speak properly, it's to confront chaos, it's to make a better world. It's something like that. And that's enough of a noble aim so that you can stand up without, cringing at the very thought of your own existence, so that you can do something that's worthwhile to justify your wretched position on the planet. Well, I think it depends to some degree on what you mean by stronger. So physical strength is one element. And like if you look at mythological heroes, imagine that the stories of heroes are fragmented elements of the archetype. And so one kind of archetypal hero, obviously, is someone who's physically strong. You know, you see that, there's a great movie that you could watch about this. It's called Hitman Hart. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, and it's about this guy named Bret Hart. And Bret Hart was, for a while, the most famous Canadian on the planet. And he was a Worldwide Wrestling Foundation, I think, what did they call that, WWF? Yeah, he was their, like, lead good guy. And so wrestling, I loved the documentary because when I was a little kid, like 4 or 5, I used to watch father, whose name was Stu Hart, who ran this channel, this wrestling confederation in Alberta.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let us know what you thought down in the comment section down below.